heard of the term kitchen witch? It's pretty fun to try on. And this video is inspired by that term of kitchen witchin. And when I really started to get into making food, it was when I was pregnant. And there was this obvious change happening within me. And I just loved making food and nourishing myself, my growing baby, and those around me. And so this Free the Flow video is inspired by this full moon in Cancer, because Cancer really is the archetype of mother, and mothers need to be nourished. And so this video will show a meal that I love to make my family, and it's simply a kale, white bean, and chicken soup stew. I also add Parmesan cheese, chicken stock, lemon, butter, and salt. And then that's all gonna be further along showing those processes too. But really what I wanna share with this video with kitchen witching is the power of the witch archetype to bring into our own body, our feet, how we're breathing, the presence that is available when we are cutting very methodically. We can be cutting through for clarity. You can be infusing each cut with a prayer or an intention. And then really, the witch archetype offers us this power with time. And I'm not talking about the herb, although that's a great herb to use too. But time. This is a slow cooked meal, that the time it takes to gather the ingredients, infuse the ingredients with whatever intention you're wanting to place into the food, and then to allow it to have the alchemy, to caramelize the onions and shallots, to allow the chicken breast to get really tender. That's the magic of time that the witch archetype to me really embodies. And then also this current season where I'm located in the northern hemisphere with this full moon in Cancer on January 13th is the season of winter. So during winter, to have the slower cooked meals also helps nourish our bodies during the winter season. So you're welcome to listen and watch this video where I show my process of making this stew and soup. I was inspired to share this particular meal because I had many friends that I've made. I love making this for other mamas or other mamas to be. And I keep asking, like, what's the recipe? What's the recipe? And I was like, well, I don't really have a recipe, but I will show you how to do it. And so that's why I wanted to make this video, was to show how I make this soup, the soup stew, because it's kind of like a thicker stew or soup. And again, the most important ingredient is your essence, the consciousness that we bring in. And then as we cut the kale, the shallots, the garlic, we can be placing a particular intention in prayer. And so for this meal, I was placing this intention in prayer for my beloveds that I'm going to be sharing this with. And then it's really fun to see how it's received. And that's where the magic continues. So let's get kitchen witchin'. Okay, so here I have my garlic, my shallots. I'm gonna cut my onion. My pan is heating. Now that it's heated up, I'm going to add a little glug of olive oil in there. And as I cut these onions, I'm going to infuse it with my intention of nourishing my family, having it be a really warming meal for the winter. And I like to do the onions like so. So all these alliums are in the family, and they'll get caramelized. I'm going to start by putting the shallots in. And this is where your intuition can really come in. You're like, You can ask and talk to the ingredients, like, who wants to go first? And just have fun. Have fun infusing the meal with your essence, your magic. Now, the onions. I'm placing these in here. I've already set my Dutch oven to a sear setting because I'm gonna, as this is happening, prepare the chicken. So now that the onions are in, this is where I like to add butter. A good healthy amount of butter to add. And as that's, turn the heat up just a little bit. As that's happening, now I'm going to prepare my chicken. Always thinking the spirit of what is the source of the meal. And so the spirit of these alliums, the spirit of this chicken, giving gratitude and honoring this life that now is supporting my family in their growth. My young boy who is growing. I'll do chunks about so. And then I'm noticing my feet. I'm breathing, I'm in my feet as I am making this meal. Now that that's ready, I'm gonna keep stirring this, get it nice and caramelized. And then I'm gonna bring this chicken over to the Dutch oven. Browned on the outside. I set my Dutch oven on sear and saute. I like to add, I love me some Camargue salt. That we got to visit this place in France this last year, so I'm just infusing with this salty Mediterranean grounding salt to then bring that into that source of energy. Thank you, Camargue salt. Let that keep going. It's a little bit of time here, and so this is a moment where you can enjoy, drink some tea, and this is getting nice and caramelized, yeah. So once it's about to this place with the onion, the allium mixture, then I like to add some vinegar. Healthy glug, I'm using white wine vinegar. Let that really get into the savory umami flavor. And all the sounds of the making of this amazing meal is the music of this meal. So a friend taught me this trick with kale, which I thought was pretty cool. So I would always be like, de-spine it very meticulously with my knife, which I like doing that. I really like precision cutting. I find joy out of it, but this little trick was fun. And then my 3-year-old loves to help me do this. So you take the stem, you might already know how to do this. Fingers around the stem, and then you just pull. And then you have the stalk away from it. And I just keep doing that. Chicken's getting ready. The onions are getting ready. Some of them might be a little more challenging. And then these are really fun for my toddler to play with. Like, or he's not a toddler anymore, 3-year-old. Like, they become wands or swords. Boop, boop, boop. So by adding that salt in with the chicken, it's making a really nice browned quality. And this delicious brine around the chicken. That's looking good. Is doing. So as you may have noticed, I'm not actually timing anything. So I know this may not be conventional recipe chefing because I don't notice the time. I pay attention to the food. So I acknowledge the privilege of having more time, but if you're able to kitchen witch and you can spend the time, like invest in the time, that is what I think adds some of the magic too. Is like, okay, I don't know how long that's been, but that's looking good. That's looking ready. And it sounds like that chicken is getting ready. So I'm also paying attention to all the senses. I'm feeling my feet. I'm breathing. I'm smelling the caramelization. I'm listening to the sounds of the chicken, and it sounds like the chicken's getting ready. So now this next step will be marrying the chicken with the allium caramelized deliciousness. Here we've got the caramelized onion, shallot, and garlic that I'm going to combine. And that get all nice and combined together too. White beans. And I like adding the beans in when it's at the stage because then the beans can get a little caramelized. Why I'm doing so much caramelization is because it's winter and we need the extra sugars in our diet. So I'm just gonna open the cans, open these cans. I'm gonna try to not spill the beans. I heard that came from counting in ancient Greece. They had a jar of beans, and then if the beans were spilled, then it was gave away like the counting, something had happened, like you shared a secret that you weren't supposed to share. So that's where that idiom came from. I like knowing where the origin of idioms are. So I'm gonna go drain the beans, add the beans. Now I'm gonna spill the beans. And I like to do 2 cans because my boy loves beans. And I want to make this soup go a long way. And then I gently mix. I don't want to squish the beans too much, but I want them to get all that flavor that is mixed in with all the other deliciousness. And let me just, and it's so good to be in touch with your creation. So to look at it, you see that through the senses, like, okay, what are the colors changing? To listen, how is the sound of the sizzling? To smell, you can feel and sense, like, for the timing, like, is this about the right time? That's being that intuitive kitchen witch. And then, of course, tasting it. But we're not quite at the tasting part yet. But you can still taste through the air of the steam. And that is looking good. So you just let it sit and do more of its thing. And then the longer it sits, the tastier it gets. Because I use the rind, so here there's 2 parts of the rind for the Parmesan. I use this for the soup, and that is really great to just throw in and let it marinate once I put the liquid in. So grate what you can. If it's crumbled, just add it as the crumble. Because really, like what I've noticed, and you might have too, like the less stressed I am while I'm making a meal, the less stressed the meal is. The less, that energy is literally being infused into the water molecules. The water is what is like picking up on the energy. And even though I haven't added any water per se, it's the water within all the ingredients, the water molecules, the water that will be in the broth, the water that will be in the kale. And then that's the water state that impacts the food that then we put into our bodies. The next phase, so we're gonna add chicken broth. Oh, and now I'm gonna set the setting to slow cook. This is why I love this Dutch oven, is both like faster for searing, and then you can add the slow cook mode. Just so nice. Now it's really fun in this moment to, like, because this is like the brew. This is the cauldron, and to really notice with the liquid, you can sing to your soup. And I just always sing this song that's saying thank you and to the water, so I'm going to sing that. Even though this isn't just water, but I'm singing to the water molecules within all of the soup that is going to translate that all the way into every part of this creation. Thank you, water. Thank you, water. Thank you, water, for this life. Thank you, water. Thank you, water. Thank you, water, for this life. And this is now when we just put on the top and allow it to slow cook for as long as you want. Could be an hour, 2 hours. I'm gonna let it go for a couple hours before then I add the Parmesan and kale. So I'm gonna stop these and then come back on when I'm adding those pieces. So this is a time that you just can walk away. Again, if you have the slow cooker, or you could have it on the low setting on your stove, and go enjoy whatever else you're doing, and step away from this and let it do its alchemy. We've already infused what we needed to inside, and now we just give it time. Okay, so let's see how the soup's doing. I've left it about 3 hours, and during that time I added a little bit of more butter, a little more salt, and a little more vinegar, and stirred it in. Other than that, haven't seen it. So let's see how it, oh yeah, that's looking pretty good. I'm gonna add these next 3 ingredients. The kale is gonna just slide right in. It almost looks like I'm making a Caesar with all these ingredients of kale, and then the Parmesan sprinkling on top. And then I'm gonna nice squeeze a lemon. course, you can add any other seasonings that you like pepper. I keep it fairly mild because of my boy doesn't love the spice of pepper, so black pepper would go really well with this as well. So now that those are all in, I'm gonna give it a nice stir. And it smells so good. I also encourage you to, as you're waiting for the right time, to just taste it and add anything that you think it needs. So it's that's the magic of the kitchen witching, is observation, time, intuition, being in the body fully as we make and infuse this meal with our own essence. And then this balancing act between the acidity and savory, saltiness, the fats of the butter. And so that's where I add in a little bit more of the butter, a little bit more of the vinegar, a little bit more salt, and you can just taste it until it's just right for you. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that is good. And I loved walking back into the home after leaving it and just being wafted with the fragrance of this magical pot of soup and getting to reveal what the time has done to this. So see here I have the Parmesan rind still stewing in there, marinating. And that is looking pretty good to me. So I'm gonna serve it. And I'm gonna bless it up and share it with my family. And these kinds of soups, again, the longer it waits, the next day, it's even more rich and flavorful. So here we have it after the Kitchen Witchin session, this cauldron of nourishment for you and your family. And then it's really fun and magical to watch how this enters into the field of sharing the food and the state of how it's received and the different conversations that happen and overall quality of energy when you share food from this place. So, bon appetit. I'm gonna go serve my boy and I some lunch now. And may you continue to kitchen witch and spread that magic through nourishment in your home. Mmm.